They're so good. I loved Hammer films, especially on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah, Phantom of the... Oh, that was your favorite, Valerie? Ike, what's your favorite Universal monster? What was your favorite Universal monster, Ike? Then we have the Mummy. Um, with the Hammer films. So you had that. The Hammer films was absolutely amazing. Um, the Wolf of Wall Street. That's not a horror film, Mike. That's not a horror film. No, that doesn't count. The Wolf of Wall Street. No, that doesn't count. I'm sorry. Okay. Of course, and it's in Hammer Films' heyday. Um, a lot of Dracula was played by Christopher Lee. Peter Cushing and other British stars of the day, of course. The best, they say, is The Curse of Frankenstein. And that was its first color horror film. And that was in 1957. Okay, Wolf of Wall Street. You're silly. Anyway, The Curse of Frankenstein was the first horror color film by Hammer Films. A wild-eyed Cushing plays the Swiss doctor, and a melty-faced Christopher Lee plays the made-from-dead body parts monster. So, that was an interesting movie. Curse of the Werewolf. That was another one. Plague of the Zombies. This was 2 years before George Romero on Night of the Dead. And Hammer unleashed the same on the spooky English moors. It was Victorian times, witchcraft, voodoo. But if you're a zombie fan, you have to have seen this. It was interesting, to say the least. Oh, that sounds interesting. What is it called? The Way of the Wolf. That sounds interesting. It really does. Okay, then we have, of course, Hammer Films. Released with even more evocative type. Quartermass in the Pit was third in a series based on a BBC show. It's the most science fiction leaning in this collection they have. Horror of Dracula. That's another Cushing Lee collaboration. Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee. And an interesting note on Christopher Lee. He asked, he had enough of playing Dracula in these films, because he said that all he does is stand around, really. He didn't really get to do anything. Boy, that changed later on, didn't it? Oh, I'm glad, Ike. I'm glad. So, Cushing and Lee were in a lot of these movies. Lee plays the Count. Cushing plays Van Helsing, of course, which he did a lot of them. Scream of Fear. That was a twist-filled black and white, which features Christopher Lee in a supporting role. So that was an interesting movie. The Devil's Bride. This again, Christopher Lee is in this one. How about you have several obscure ones, of course, that Hammer made, but Hammer Films was huge. We had The Mummy, The Brides of Dracula, Curse of the Werewolf, Kiss of the Vampire, The Gorgon. Do you remember The Gorgon? Oh, that was an interesting movie. Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Dracula has risen from the grave, and that was on not too long ago. Um, Scars of Dracula, Hands of the Ripper, Dracula AD, Vampire Circus, The Devil's Daughter, of course, Dracula in 1958. Hammer Films was really good. So if you don't know if somebody says Hammer Films, if you don't know what they're talking about, you've been living under a rock. Seriously. And of course, yeah, the Gorgon. Yeah, that was an interesting movie. So, how about Bela Lugosi? Interesting, interesting. And of course, he's most famous for Count Dracula, and he played it the best. Um, and he died in 1956. He was a Hungarian American actor, of course, for playing Dracula. And of course, he was buried in his cape as he wanted. So, um, we have Dracula. He was in the Wolfman. White Zombie. Of course, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Son of Frankenstein. Black Cat. White Zombie was interesting. So, White Zombie was good. I thought it was. Yeah, some of these are really, if you remember him. He was awesome. Let's see. I have some more notes on him. And of course, he was in other films, of course. He paired with Karloff in The Black Cat, The Raven, and Son of Frankenstein, of course. Of course, Karloff received top billing, but, he played in some, yeah, yeah. I think so too. I agree. I do. Then later on, he played some smaller roles, of course. So he had some things going on. The Body Snatcher. He paired Lugosi with Boris again. Boris Karloff, what a voice, huh? He was something else. So Lugosi wanted to be cast in non-horror roles, but he was Dracula. That was it. So, they never really gave him that chance. Boris Karloff, what a name. He is one of the most, his voice really, I think, made him. And just his look. I mean, he could give you a look that would chill the blood in your veins. You know what I'm saying? His actual name was William Henry Pratt. Not too scary. Boris Karloff, now that's a scary name. So, he was just a scary looking guy. He really was. But I love Boris Karloff. And of course, we know him as the Grinch also. He portrayed Frankenstein's monster, Bride of Frankenstein, and Son of Frankenstein. And that made him, resulted in his immense popularity. He also appeared as Imhotep in The Mummy. He was just awesome. And of course, his non-horror role, the Grinch. How could you not listen to that every year? Oops. Oops, sorry. Almost lost you there. Um, and he played a lot with Vincent Price, too. I loved Trilogy of Terror. You had Peter Lorre, Vincent Price, and Boris Karloff. That was great. That was one great movie. I absolutely loved that movie. And the first, of course, Frankenstein in 1935. The Old Dark House. Do you remember The Old Dark House? That is a creepy freaking movie. I saw it and I was like, oh my God. It was Charles Lofton. That is a creepy movie. It really was. And then, oh gosh. I can't think of the name of the movie. He was on an island. He was a, officer. Of course, yeah, he played in the Broadway stage original production of Arsenic and Old Lace, of course. Although I think he should have played it in the movie, but Raymond Massey did all right with it. What's the name of that movie? Gosh darn it. He's on an island. He was an officer. It's kind of a horror movie. And people are dying, and they're stuck on this island. And they have to wait for the wind to shift because it's bringing the plague or whatever it is to the island. Dang, I can't think of the name of the movie. Let me think. I'll think of it. But yeah, he was on an island. He was an officer in the army, and of course, he made everybody stay there. Gosh darn it, I can't think of the name of the movie. Son of Frankenstein, The Old Dark House. The Old Dark House was good. Body Snatcher. That was an interesting movie. That was a creepy movie with him. Let's see if I can get a list of that movie because that's really bugging me. Cauldron of Blood, House of Evil, Sorcerers, Black Sabbath. That's a trio of horror stories concerning a stock car girl, a patriarch who has become a vampire, and a nurse who is haunted by a ring's rightful owner. The Terror. Is that it? No, that's not it. Of course, The Raven. Oh, you gotta love that movie with Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, The Raven. That was excellent. Voodoo Island? No. Abbott and Costello meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Black Castle. Abbott and Costello meet the killer, Boris Karloff. That was excellent. Oh, gosh darn it. What was the name of that movie? Of course, Bedlam. How about Bedlam? Oh, my God. I love Bedlam. Isle of the Dead. That's it. Isle of the Dead. Have any of you seen that one? Isle of the Dead. They're quarantined there for the plague, and they have to wait for the wind to shift to go elsewhere. So he was the